just put out the files and stop redacting names that don't need to be redacted. It's just, who are we trying to protect? Are we protecting the survivors, or are we protecting these elite men that need to be put out there? And people need to know these are predators that are in the files. They need to be brought to justice so they can stop um, doing this in the long run. It's for everyone's safety at the end of the day.
A fresh political firestorm is erupting in Washington, and it centers on the Epstein Files. For a second straight day, Republican Congressman Thomas Massie is accusing the Trump administration of breaking the law over its partial release of records tied to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Massie says the Department of Justice is not just delaying, but defying Congress. In a blistering post, Massie urges the public to compare the Epstein Files Transparency Act with a DOJ letter sent to Congress, a letter asserting privilege to withhold key materials. His verdict is blunt. They are flaunting the law.
In the beginning, they were calling us a hoax, right? They were like saying that we were a hoax. And now they're like, we believe you. We're going to release the files. But yet you still haven't released the files, and it's not even full transparent. So it's very nice to say it, but it's also nice to actually do it.
The law, passed just weeks ago and signed by the U.S. President, explicitly requires the DOJ to provide internal communications, including decisions on whether Epstein was investigated or charged. But the Justice Department says it is not releasing everything. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche insists the delay is about protecting victims, saying every document is being reviewed to remove names and identifying details. He promises more releases in the coming weeks, but that explanation is not easing the anger from lawmakers or from Epstein's victims.
All we know right now from the documents is that there was a clear and corroborated report that Maria Farmer did exactly what she has said for 30 years that she did. She reported Epstein to the authorities, to the federal authorities, to the FBI. And as far as we can tell, and I wish I knew, Kristen, I wish I had more information out of the files or otherwise, it looks like the government did absolutely nothing. And as a result, having done nothing, having failed to act, horrible things have happened. Had they acted, had they investigated in even the smallest way, they could have stopped him. And it's not just the victims, it's also the victims' families, because it affects not just that person, but everyone they deal with, their loved ones, the people that they come in contact with, their ability to function in society. So it affected thousands of lives, and they could have spared that for those thousands of people. And they could have avoided 30 years of trauma if they had just done their job. One of the key things we want to accomplish with this release of files is transparency. Another key thing is belief, restoration of public trust in the institutions. And a third thing is accountability. And so far, we're not hitting any of those marks.
The Justice Department's document dump this afternoon does not comply with Thomas Massie and my Epstein Transparency Act. They released one document from a New York grand jury of 119 pages, totally blacked out. This despite a federal judge ordering them to release that document. And our law requires them to explain redactions. There's not a single explanation for why that entire document was redacted. We have not seen the draft indictment that implicates other rich and powerful men who were on Epstein's rape island, who either watched the abuse of young girls or participated in the abuse of young girls and the sex trafficking. The reality is Pam Bondi has obfuscated for months. She first said there were no more documents to be seen. Now she's admitting and releasing hundreds of thousands of documents, but it is an incomplete release with too many redactions. Thomas Massie and I are exploring all options. It can be the impeachment of people at justice, inherent contempt, or referring for prosecution those who are obstructing justice. We will work with the survivors to demand the full release of these files, to demand justice for the Epstein class and accountability.
Top Democrats on the House Oversight and Judiciary Committees now say they are examining all legal options, calling the Justice Department's actions a violation of federal law. The Justice Department pushes back, arguing it is complying with the law, meeting the initial deadline, and delivering transparency previous administrations never offered. But for Massie, that defense falls flat. He says the release fails to meet both the spirit and the letter of the law, a law signed just 30 days ago. As the Epstein files continue to trickle out, the pressure is rising, and so are the questions. Is this transparency or a test of the rule of law itself?
The Justice Department has begun releasing its files on the late financier and sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, but as the release was happening, it became clear immediately that this was just the beginning of the disclosure of documents from the Justice Department. People looking for revelations, for bombshells in these documents would come away disappointed. There was some new information about a 1996 complaint to the FBI involving Epstein that predates the investigations that were public, the ones in the mid-2000s and then ultimately in 2019. Thousands of records were photographs. There were pictures from FBI searches of Jeffrey Epstein's homes in Manhattan and the Virgin Islands. There were also some doses of political and celebrity intrigue. We saw a series of never-before-seen photographs of former President Bill Clinton. We saw fleeting images of President Donald Trump in a larger collection of photographs at one of Epstein's residences. We also saw some images of Epstein with actor Kevin Spacey, with the news anchor Walter Cronkite. There was a photograph of Michael Jackson and Diana Ross with Bill Clinton. But all of these images and all of these documents have been disclosed without much context. The release of documents on Friday is the culmination of a months-long struggle over the fate of the so-called Epstein files. Initially, President Donald Trump and his Justice Department were eager to release its records on Epstein. But in July, the Justice Department stopped releasing records, and that prompted Congress to act. Many people saw Friday as the end of that journey, but as we've seen now, there is going to be a rolling disclosure. This is not the end of this journey. This is merely the beginning of what could be a very lengthy process to get at all of the records the Justice Department has.